A Jedi Prince, a devastating betrayal, and the destruction of the Lost City? The battle against the evil empire rages on as heroic men, women, and aliens of the Rebel Alliance continue their struggle to end the era of darkness. But by rescuing an Imperial prisoner, have the rebels brought disaster upon themselves? While on a perilous quest in the mushroom forests of Arzid, Luke and Ken are captured by Kaden, supreme Imperial prophet. Having tempted the young Jedi Prince into revealing the location of the lost city of the Jedi, the supreme prophet plans to steal the ancient knowledge of the Jedi Knights. Now Kaden will rule over a new tyrannical empire, as foretold by the prophets of the dark side.
Dark greetings, younglings, and welcome to the penultimate episode of the Padawan Library, the Star Wars Junior Novel Podcast. I'm Levi Paratic, and with me, as always, my fellow Junior Jedi Librarian, Tim May.
Dark greetings.
And today, we conclude a saga, the Jedi Prince saga, number 6, Prophets of the Dark Side, by Paul Davids and Hollis Davids. And because this is Jedi Prince, we are joined by not a friend of the show, but a foe of the show. Dark greetings to Stolen Data Tapes, Dan May.
Dark greetings. We delve today into the source material for Rise of Skywalker.
So true. Oh my god. I was in shock. We'll talk about it. I was in absolute shock. We're going to talk. Dan, I've known you a long time.
Literally your entire life.
Yeah, I've known you a while. And you know, you and I watched the Book of Boba Fett together.
You guys opened the book and closed the book together?
Open the book, close the book.
Yeah, grand opening, grand closing. And we talked a lot about this last week, so we're probably not going to talk as long, but the finale aired on Wednesday, right? And it seems to have been met with general disappointment. Does that feel right to you?
Kinda, yeah.
I kinda disagree with that. I thought it was fun.
It's fine. I don't think there's anything, bad about it, but I also don't think, Boba, to me, Boba doesn't have, this hugely fulfilling arc. In the end, I still feel what is his motivations? I'm still confused by his whole motivations to begin with, of becoming the daimyo.
Yeah, here's what I thought about that specifically.
Yes, please.
So I thought the, spaghetti western showdown between him and Cad Bane was very cool, very satisfying. Mm-hmm. And I loved all of Cad Bane's shit talk about how, you're a killer, that's who you are, blah, blah, blah. That would have landed a lot better if we had been given a little bit more of, Boba Fett being ruthless, and that if that hadn't been the first real acknowledgement that the character we have in this show is different from the character in the trilogy.
I saw this thing, it was like comparing Boba Fett to how he showed up in The Mandalorian with the armor, and they had this like metal music as he's like killing stormtroopers, and then they cut to the Book of Boba Fett, and it's the footage of him being ripped out of the Bacta tank, and they have the Curb Your Enthusiasm music going as he's just like thrown onto the ground and tossed about the room. And like he gets sort of ruthless at the end of this episode, but like we have to wait all this time for him to be just like a badass.
Yeah, like I don't mind that he's a different guy, and I love when like when Cad Bane's like, oh, you've gotten soft in your old age, and he says, all of us do. That's like that made me feel so warm and fuzzy inside. That's like a great moment right there. But like, I just don't think that we really see that arc. I mean, I know they did all the Lawrence of Arabia stuff with the Tusken Raiders, and there's all that. And we get a few moments of, like, Boba Fett being, like, just a heartless bastard, like when he, like, just, like, guns down all those bikers. That's great, you know?
Yeah,
but,
fantastic.
But, like, I just wish we had seen a little bit more of that transition.
I think the Tusken Raider stuff is the best stuff in the whole thing. And, like, I know we're tied down to the fact that he has become like the daimyo at the end of Mandalorian, but like you also don't even need to go into this whole power vacuum thing. Like you could just explain the backstory, and I feel like him with the Tusken Raiders is more compelling than the whole power vacuum stuff. And Fennick's great. But Fennick has so many of these moments where it feels like you're in a boardroom meeting, and she is walking around the boardroom, just like going over like the daily meeting. And she does this, at Oasis after Oasis is burned down. And like the only people she's talking to is Din and Boba Fett. Like those are the only two people in the room, and she is just like giving them like this, like, oh well, the mods are here and the Wookiees here.
We all think that Jon Favreau, we all love Jon Favreau.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote every episode of this season except 6, that he co-wrote with Dave. But
6 is the one with CG Luke and Grogu, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But Favreau, the writing in Mandalorian and in Book of Boba Fett, and I'm talking specifically about the writing of dialogues, because it's not really about the plotting, but is often incredibly stiff.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's usually an issue. Like, it doesn't bother me that much most of the time. But I did get a bit of that in this most recent episode where, like, you'll have these actors who are all very compelling. You got, like, Tamura Morrison, Ming-Na Wen, shout out to ER, I will always say that.
I think that's the first time you've said that.
I feel like I have definitely said that before. But...
We've discussed ER before, but like you have not said that in regards
shout out to Peter Benton. Early on in ER, early on in the show, I talked about how if you diss Peter Benton, my presence, I'll murder you, basically. With the shouts to Eric LaSalle. Anyway, so I do think that the dialogue in a scene like that, where it's like you got like Ming-Na Wen and Tamura Morrison and the disembodied voice of Pedro Pascal, and you're like, we know these are all very compelling screen presences, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can be on this show, but sometimes then they're asked to deliver this dialogue. Like, you know, we made fun of the whole daimyo thing last week. That's absurd. Like, it's, you know, it's the classic Harrison, you know, you can write this shit, George, but you can't say it.
Yeah.
But it's like, but it is, like, somehow just a little more stiff, you know, like, it's closer to, you know, and I know that our audience is loath to hear us ever say anything negative about the prequels, probably, but, like, it's closer to prequel dialogue, like, you know what I mean, and which is bad. Let me actually like just say that it is bad.
It's rough.
Just because we like those movies, really the dialogue is bad in those movies. So it's not just because the general feeling about those movies has turned around, which we're all very happy about and pleased about. doesn't mean that the things that weren't good about them should be emulated. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're like...
Well, Mel told me she had read somewhere that, so John, wrote every episode, but there's only one staff writer, like, in the writing room. So, like, John basically writes a first draft, and then it's then put on upon one person to, like, clean up, and then maybe that's
and he
why,
probably
like,
does another pass after that.
Right, and maybe that's why we have, like, an issue, is because there's just not enough people working. But the episode 5, Mandalorian season 2.5, like, doesn't have any of the issues that Book of Boba Fett has.
I think because he's just more invested. This is the thing. Like, I mean, I think the best stuff about Book of Boba Fett that is related to Boba Fett. Take that episode, because episode 5 is, I think, objectively the best episode of the season, but it's an episode of The Mandalorian. It's not. It has nothing to do with the show. And then the other episode of The Mandalorian is not good, but we talked about that last week. But this...
There are things I enjoy. You just didn't enjoy it. So.
Okay. You didn't fight back last week, so I assumed. I apologize.
I very much enjoyed the R2-D2 and Ahsoka time we got together.
Oh yeah, you talked about crying.
I very much thought about.
You said that they're best friends. You said R2-D2's never had a better friend than Ahsoka, which I
agree. It's true.
I disagree.
I mean, Luke is obviously a good friend, but well, I mean, Luke probably takes care of R2, but I don't think in the way that maybe Anakin took care of R2, so...
Yeah, Anakin took care of R2 so much that he, killed everyone else that R2 cares about, and...
Right,
and destroyed his life.
Anakin betrayed everybody, okay? Everybody was affected by Anakin's betrayal.
And Anakin and R2 didn't have a moment of reconciliation like Anakin and Luke, the son he never knew, did.
Mm-hmm. Maybe they should have.
So R2's not going to have.
Yeah, that would have been a good addition to Return of the Jedi.
Here's the thing.
Lucas, get on it for the 4K.
R2 should have gone with Luke to the Death Star, and we would have had like all these. And the Emperor, he zaps R2 with the lightning, and that's when Vader is like, "Oh no! Like you never diss R2 in my presence, Chief."
We joke about this, but. And this is not even a huge criticism, but the current Star Wars team would do that scene. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
Like,
yeah.
And I love John, I love Dave. Shouts to Edinburgh. You know what I mean? We got to give as many shouts as possible. We're getting to the end here, so we're going to be shouting everybody. Eric
shouting
LaSalle,
left and right.
Shout out 1995 George Clooney. Anyway, I do think though, like there is like, I think some people want something different out of Star Wars than I probably want at this point. Like for me, I just don't think that it's possible for a franchise that is going into its, that's in its 5th decade of to create work that matters. Like the way that the original work that mattered. Mm-hmm. That's a dumb sentence, but you know what I mean?
And at this point, too, we're getting a lot of fan service, too.
Right, and fan service is this, dirty word, and I think generally that's fair. But I also think, like, at a certain point, if you are still engaging with Star Wars stuff in 2022, you want to be serviced in some way. Maybe you don't enjoy the specific kind of fan service that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni employ, but I would argue that a movie that we all here on this podcast The Last Jedi, that is seen as this anti-fan service thing, is its own form of fan service. It is servicing the fan of Star Wars who is not obsessed with the lore. That's interested in Star Wars as a cultural force. You know what I'm saying? Which is a huge part of the fan base of Star Wars that is just not discussed because they're not as online or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I think that movie is directly aimed at that fan and is talking about the kind of broader cultural context of Star Wars and all that stuff and blah, blah, blah. This stuff is just much more about the lore, baby. And you know what I'm saying? So it's like,
yeah,
I think equally valid approaches in their own way, but neither of them is saying, like, the original Star Wars, while it's a derivative work in some ways, it is about the moment it was made. It has broader themes. It has, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's its own work. Everything since, but certainly everything since Lucas left it behind, but like even the stuff he did after the original Star Wars is a derivative work, is a purely derivative work. Yeah. And certainly now, after the original artist is gone, and you have new people coming in, it's them doing their thing with Star Wars. That's never going to, it's the same as like, there are great Spider-Man comics that, you know, that exist after the original Stan Lee, Steve Ditko run, but none of them are transformative the way the original run was, that shifted the genre and changed the way people thought about that kind of storytelling. Because it can't be. It naturally can't be. So, to me, this broader idea of, like, what do we want from Star Wars, I kind of just don't, I just want, like, I look to Star Wars, and I'm saying this because, you know, we're coming to the end of the show, and this is kind of, like, what is my relationship with Star Wars after the show's over? You know what I'm saying? I've been thinking about this a lot. You know, not like, will I stop caring about it? I'll never stop caring about it. But it's like, it is going to shift a little bit because I'm not going to be thinking about it in terms of how I'm going to talk about it on our podcast. So my relationship with it is going to be a little more detached, where it's like, I think this show looks good, so I will watch it right away. This show, and, you know, I already have kind of gotten to this point with the animated stuff, as you know, and as I famously haven't seen Bad Batch, etc. But, like,
Dan, have you watched Bad Batch yet?
No.
Okay, there's actually a sticking point that I have with Cad Bane in this episode of Boba Fett.
Oh, fascinating. I don't really care about Bad Batch spoilers, so you can go ahead as far as I'm concerned.
So basically, Cad Bane and Fennick are hired to go after the same bounty in an episode of Bad Batch, but hired by different people, and it results in the two of them battling, and Fennick wins the battle. Basically,
I heard about this.
And the way that Cad Bane is sort of like, I feel like the way that he's presented in that episode is that he's getting old. You know, he's getting tired, he's getting slow, sort of thing.
But this is like 30 years later, basically.
Yeah, it is. It's way later. And also, that's something else too. So, if we're talking spoilers, so there's a character in Bad Batch named Omega. Okay, right. Omega is a female clone of Jango Fett. When Omega was born. Okay, when Omega was born, there was also, she's an unaltered clone, okay? When she was made, there was a second unaltered clone, a boy version named Alpha. Alpha is Boba Fett. So, Omega is Boba Fett's sister. However, so when Omega, who is about 10 years old in Bad Batch, meets Fennick, Fennick is an adult. So Fennick is actually older than Boba Fett is, which is like a vibe that definitely does not come off in the show. She's like definitely like 10 years older than Boba Fett.
Wow.
I see where you're coming from. I don't know their ages for sure, but I would bet that Tamura and Ming-Na Wen are the same age.
Probably. Let's find out for sure. All right.
Because she was on ER in like 1994 or 5.
But yeah, like, to go back to what you were saying, though, Tim, about, you know, what we want from Star Wars stuff, I agree that one can't expect, you know, transcendent, transformative masterpieces, but one can expect structural cohesion. And
well, that's I wasn't even really defending Book of Boba Fett necessarily. I do like it more, I think, than the general consensus is on it.
Yeah. And I do too, probably. I mean, I don't know. I'm not online, so I don't really know what the general consensus is. And I liked it well enough. It just felt very slight to me, and felt like it was like, well, we should. People want us to do a Boba Fett thing because we've been making this show about a guy who wears armor that looks like Boba Fett's armor. Mm-hmm. So we should do a Boba Fett show. And it felt a little obligatory. But Tamura's great. That guy has so much charisma.
I enjoy Tamura's presence always, and that's what I don't like about episodes 5 and 6 is the lack of Tamura in those episodes. And I think
especially 6, it's just ridiculous that he's.
I think it is such
two full Mandalorian episodes.
It's such an injustice to Boba Fett that he is so sidelined for those episodes, but I also think it's an injustice to Mandalorian too, because there are people who are not going to watch Book of Boba Fett, and this whole reunion of Grogu and Din in Boba Fett completely undercuts the end of season 2 of Mandalorian. So now we're at this clean slate point for season 3 of Mandalorian, but there's going to be people who are like, wait a minute, what happened here? But we have to watch Book of Boba Fett for this?
And and as far as internally within Book of Boba Fett, like I said, I felt like it felt slight, but I had a good time with it. The problem with dropping the 2 Mandalorian episodes in for the Book of Boba Fett season is that the finale, which I think is pretty solid, is like some of the wind gets taken out of those sails by the fact that we just spent 2 episodes on a detour. And if you're watching it week to week, then it's been 2-3 weeks since the last time you tuned into what was actually going on in this story.
Yeah, no,
I think an issue Book of Boba Fett has is there's too many characters introduced, and we don't have enough time to flesh them out. We have the mods, we have Chrysanthemum. Yeah, we have
love the mods, love those Neuromancer characters. That's great.
We have my R.I.P. Garsof Whip, who I think should have deserved more time.
Who's the actress? It's like
Jessica Biel, right?
Not Jessica Biel, Jennifer Beals.
Jennifer Biel from Flashdance.
Weird to cast her, and then she's barely even matters as a character.
Yeah,
I think she makes a huge impression, but she's not. She has no impact really on what happens in the story.
It is. It's sad. And then, I'll go through the things I like. There's a lot of things I like about the final episode. Love the Rancor stuff.
That was great.
All the big final battle stuff is fun. Oh my god. I love the harmonica version of the Book of Boba Fett theme as Boba Fett and Fennick are walking through the town at the end. But I love even more than that, and it made me cackle, was the lyric version of the Book of Boba Fett theme where it's like, Boba Fett! It's so corny, so funny.
I love corn. What can I say?
Things I don't like, the fact that Fennec and Cad Bane don't have a moment. I don't love that Boba Fett kills Cad Bane. I think that's because Cad Bane's such a great character, so it's like I would have loved for him to survive, but him being killed by Boba Fett is also like a sort of passing of the torch sort of thing, I guess. But Boba Fett, I feel like
timeline-wise, it just feels like that happens way too late.
It's so late
for it to have you. I think I don't know if people realize when this show takes place almost a decade after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
So it's
Well, I understand what you're saying, in terms of the literal logistics of it, but I felt like having someone. I mean, maybe Cad Bane wasn't the right choice, but having someone who is similarly past their prime, like Boba Fett is in the show, definitely gave it that energy felt good. I also kind of wish they'd played more with that, the fact that Boba Fett's a guy who's now old. I wish they'd played with that a little bit more in the show.
Yeah, there are
played
things
it as though Tamura looks like he looked in Attack of the Clones, and this is not a shot at Tamura. He looks great, but he's clearly 20 years older than he was in Attack of the Clones.
By the way, Tamura 61 years old, Ming 58. So
wow,
older by 3 years. Okay.
Yeah, he's older, but they're basically. I was right. They're basically the same age. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's that damn Sarlacc. That Sarlacc just aged Boba so much, and all that. It's 7 years on Tatooine, living peacefully among the Tuskens.
They tried to use that whole Wampa Mark Hamill thing,
Yeah, they
It's
did.
like, yeah.
And one more thing I didn't like was the killing of the mayor, because I thought the mayor had a cute vibe to him. He had a nice soft voice and he was fuzzy, and I liked the fact that he was like kind of had like peach fuzzy hair on him. So I was really kind of sad to see him be strangled to death. I was sad to see he was killed.
Oh, I liked that.
Such a violent way.
What I liked about the mayor was exactly that he was kind of like this cute Star Wars creature. He's like, he's an Ithorian, and he's, and if you know about Star Wars lore, those guys are usually fairly like mild mannered at least in Legends. They had they were like horticulturalists and shit. And but, in any case, like, I liked that he was like this sort of, soft spoken character, but he was an evil dick. And I thought that was fun.
Yeah.
Speaking of horticulturalists, are you excited about Uncle Owen himself, Joel Edgerton, playing?
I'm very excited about that.
Playing a horticulturalist in the new Paul Schrader movie, who is torn between two women, one who's old enough to be his mother and one who is young enough to be his daughter. That's the exact logline.
Paul Schrader should make a Star Wars movie.
Paul Schrader should make a Star Wars movie. I agree. 100%. Put Oscar Isaac in it too as a different character. Looks like it.
Yeah. Let him reprise his role from the card counter.
That, or you know what? It needs to star Willem Dafoe is what it needs to.
That'd be awesome.
Willem.
Well, I was thinking about this fucking Marvel show Moon Knight, which I would never watch if it didn't star the Paul Schrader All Stars. Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke. Oh. I hope Willem shows up. They go all out, get Bobby D. Let's go. Like, Nick Nolte, let's throw them all in there.
You gotta see Taking Lives for the Ethan Hawke performance. So
Taking Lives is directed by DJ Caruso, right?
Yeah.
Who later made Disturbia and Eagle Eye and Triple X: The Return of Xander Cage.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw his new film a few nights ago. It's called Redeeming Love.
I saw that he directed this when I
watched the movie.
I forgot all about it.
I was in shock at the end of the movie when I saw it directed by... So if fans don't know, I am going to see every wide release movie this year. That's the plan. I am caught up. There 3 new movies came out today that I have to see, but before that I've seen every movie. And earlier this week I did a huge catch-up, and I saw Redeeming Love, which is like an evangelical movie. And I said it's like evangelical erotica from the director of Triple X: The Return of Xander Cage.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I was in shock that it was directed by that guy. I mean, whatever. I have nothing really to say about it, but I was in shock.
Taking Lives gets very much something for the dads, is all I'll say, is how Taking Lives turns out. So the fact that he made that movie is surprising.
This movie is the horniest movie. Like, it's so, like...
Because you had texted me, if you know...
Any horny evangelicals you should recommend.
Yeah.
Redeeming Love.
How was the new Roland flick?
Oh, Moonfall? I saw that with a friend of the show, Brooke White. Quite bad. I mean, first of all, I don't know what happened with Halle Berry, that she's like, this is the kind of movie she's in now. Like, it's weird to me. I mean, she was in great. She was rarely ever in great movies, but like, it's just weird. Like, just given how famous she was and how like good of an actor she was, you'd think she would have just been in.
Right. This is an Oscar-winning actor. So anyway,
it was quite bad. I mean, it's classic Roland. Like, this kooky conspiracy theorist is actually right, and like all this stuff, which it's like the Brent Spiner plus real life Randy Quaid, and you got I really hate the like dork scientist conspiracy theorist in this. He's a mega structuralist. He believes the moon was created by aliens, so that it's like a big Dyson sphere. And that turns out to be true, of course.
Oh my goodness! What did you?
It's absurd.
What did you think of 355?
I thought it was pretty fun. I think like Simon Kinberg, the director of the movie, is I never saw Dark Phoenix, which was his directorial debut.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's that great an action director, but it reminded me, you're like, okay, yeah, this guy wrote like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, like, which isn't a great movie, but before he became like the X-Men guy, like he like wrote some decent action movie scripts, and I was like, this cast is, I mean, you got Jessica Chastain, Lupita Nyong'o, like Penelope Cruz, Diane Kruger, like these are all people I love. So like I had a good time. Sebastian Stan was fun, although I thought the twist was very easy to spot.
Yeah, I thought it was too. I don't love Sebastian Stan, and I'm watching that Pam and Tommy right now, and I still don't love him in that. And don't even watch that show, Tim.
I would never watch that show.
You'd hate that. You hate that the one guy, the I, Tonya guy. So.
Yeah, like I said, I hate Craig Gillespie. I would never watch it. Craig Gillespie is the biggest hack to emerge in the last decade of American film, in my opinion. Like,
well, I
heard he's a big listener of Padawan Library.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Well,
whatever. I'm not working in the movie industry.
There's this baffling choice in the second episode in which Tommy Lee.
He talks to his penis, and it's voiced by Jason Mantzoukas, right? Like I heard about this.
Yes, and it's a big prosthetic penis, and the mouth opens in it, and it is just weird. It is like very baffling choice.
There's a thing I was reading somewhere that somebody was saying that apparently in Tommy Lee's memoir, he talks about how he talks to his penis.
Okay,
like he has conversations with his penis. So
like
the writer
Wahlberg and Boogie Nights.
No, like I mean he like has full on conversations.
It's a fake penis like that though. Like it is, but it like it moves. Like it got like a wire in it, so it'll like turn from side to side and up and down, and it will like turn and look at him. It's really crazy. And then Lily James is wearing like prosthetic tits.
Well, like, it's literally impossible for anyone to play her without doing that, probably.
Yeah, I know, but so it's like also too like so you have like you have a fake penis and fake boobs as well. So I mean Pam has fake boobs, but anyway, moving past that, we should. Any final thoughts on the book before we close the book?
Yeah.
I'm very excited for the Book of Cobb Vanth. That's the one
happening?
No, but the fact that he's in the Bacta tank, we'll get those flashbacks now. We'll start having the nightmares, and that's how we'll get his backstory.
I'm very excited for Mandalorian.
I know, right? Me too.
He needs to think about his entire life before he goes in the Bacta tank. Our friend /fellow of the show, Sam McCauley, posted something on my Facebook of a still from a music video that I had forgotten about.
I saw this.
This music video for the song. This is actually timely because these guys are going to be at the Super Bowl this weekend. Music video for "I Need a Doctor," the Dr. Dre Eminem single from like 2010.
To bring me back to life.
Such a bad
Terrible.
song. Such a bad song. It's the only single that ever came out from Detox, and it was like, this is going to be terrible.
You remember that music video where Dre's looking at his own grave?
That's what we're talking about. No, the music video, remember, he's in like a Bacta tank, and Eminem's rapping at him to like wake him up.
Yeah, and the meme that Samuel posted said like, "Can't wait for the Book of Dre." Like that was like the joke, like a Bacta tank.
So yeah, go check that video out.
In case you forgot about it.
I'm pretty sure they're not going to play that at the Super Bowl.
I hope so. I hope they do.
It's literally, I think, the worst song that Dre in particular has ever been involved in.
Speaking of music, we were just talking about Taking Lives. There's an element of Taking Lives I wanted to share with you.
You're obsessed with this fucking movie.
Okay, because it opens and closes with the same U2 song.
Which song?
Bad.
Bad's a great song.
To me, Bad is like the most generic U2 song, and it like there's nothing like great about Bad. It's like actually kind of like a bad song, and that's like kind of like what makes the title of the song funny.
You're such a god. You are having the most
such a generic U2
opinions.
song.
It's all right.
Jangly guitar. We got some shouting out of Bono. No shots at you too, but Bad. It was not a good song. It's not. There's no catchy lick in Bad.
Wait, hold up.
Okay.
So you said no shots at U2. Do you like U2?
Yeah, I like U2.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he likes you too. He's
All
not,
right.
He's not a diabolical.
Well, there's so many people I know that they're the best opinion I can get out of them about U2 is a shrug, and it disgusts me.
It makes me sick. They're a great band.
I'm so
and that's
sorry.
That's from fucking Unforgettable Fire fucking rules. Okay. I just feel like you have this general thing with your taste in music where you're just like, you need hooks, baby. You're like such a fucking optimist.
Well, that is 7 minutes long. It's like too long of a song.
No, it's so long. I can't hold my attention.
And it sounds exactly like Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For. It sounds exactly. It had the same guitar lick as that. Jangly, the ding 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 ding.
You're dissing the Edge right now, and listen. We should move on.
I'm gonna. I think that fans out there. I'm the only one that addresses the fans, the listeners of this show. I want somebody to cut a montage of scenes from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Bad playing over it. If somebody could do that for me, I'd be very happy. And send it to them.
Okay. I'm not I just feel like we can't, I just can't get into a YouTube.
We can't get into it right now.
First of all, because I just
you
feel
won't
like
even
you
look
don't
at
have
me right now.
You don't have enough knowledge of YouTube for me to even talk to you seriously about it. Because honestly, it's one of the subjects that I avoid talking with anybody about for the reason Dan stated, because people have such dumb reactionary opinions about YouTube that drives me insane. Not saying that's what you're doing right now. You're expressing a genuine disinterest in a great song, and that's fine. But I feel like, generally speaking, whatever. 7 minutes, God forbid. Oh no. Not every song is meant to be a fucking, a banger or whatever. I hate to sound like an old man, but Jesus, although Bad is a fucking banger.
All right, let's move on. Because you know what? I had promised a surprise for this episode, and I'm sorry to say I don't have the surprise. So long ago, I had conceived this idea that for this episode, we were going to do a radio drama, and we were going to adapt this book into a full thing, sound effects, music, the whole deal.
We literally came up with this idea 2 or 3 episodes into this podcast.
Yeah, I know. We had this idea for a long ass time.
Yeah, 3 years or so.
And then I sat down to write it, and I started adapting the book, and I got about 20 pages in, and I immediately lost interest because I just got so bored writing the dialogue verbatim, and I wasn't having a good time.
And you were just going to adapt the book into a script, and then we were both going to add jokes, basically.
Yeah.
It was the original idea. But...
So then I had another idea. And I want to preface this by saying, congratulations, Dan. I heard you've proposed to your girlfriend. You are now engaged.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And as a present, I wanted to get you a personalized shout-out video from Professor Hack Hard Drive himself.
Oh, my God.
So I emailed Paul Davids multiple times at various different emails that I could find for him. And he never returned any of my emails.
Do you think that could be because he looked up the podcast and heard us shit-talking him every single time he came up?
I made sure I didn't mention the podcast. I sent it from my own personal email to make sure that there'd be no connection to the podcast. Here's what I sent him. I said, "Hi, Professor Hack Hard Drive. I was wondering if you offered personalized shout-out videos / cameo type videos. A friend of mine recently got engaged, and we both enjoy your content. I thought a video from you could be a great engagement present. Have a good one, Levi." And I sent this to 3 different emails, and he never responded.
Well, that's a valiant effort. I appreciate that. That would have been incredible.
I know, because you guys would have been shocked. I told a friend of the show, Samuel, about this, and he was like blown away by the idea. And I really wanted that to happen. I'd hyped a surprise in the previous episode. That was going to be the surprise. So it's not my fault. No. It's Paul David's fault that the surprise didn't happen.
It is Paul David's fault. And do you know what else is Paul David's fault?
Huh.
These books.
All right. Well, that's as good a moment as any to take our break. And when we come back, we'll be discussing the end of this series and the last book we'll ever discuss on Padawan Library.
Mm-hmm.
Prophets of the Dark Side. So stay tuned, everybody. 1 week later, welcome back to Padawan Library. I was so mad at Levi about that U2 opinion you just heard that we went on a journey over the last week, and there's now there's a lost episode. We officially have a lost episode.
And my computer died during that
Your
journey.
Computer
too.
died.
We were in the middle of it.
A full 25 minutes that you guys are not going to be able to hear. We're going to mythologize for these next 2 weeks till the end of our show, and you guys are going to have to demand that missing 25 minutes.
They'll be beating down the doors.
All right. So I am here. I'm Tim May. I'm here as always with Levi Peretic.
Hello.
And our guest this week, the illustrious brother, Dan May.
Dark greetings.
Dark greetings again.
Dark greetings.
You guys just heard us greet you darkly, and now we're greeting you darkly.
Oh, right. Sorry.
No. We acknowledge up front. It's been a week. Some wild stuff. People heard the Tim Recommends last week, I'm sure. They know that some wild stuff went down, involving the U2 album Zorba. Like, there are things that you're never going to hear. So, anyway, so this week, we are wrapping up. This is our final review. So that's part of the reason I was like, you know what? Let's come back. We were like, let's come back next week and be focused. Because, this is the last time we're going to review a book on this show. And that's what this show is about, right? Reviewing Star Wars Junior novels?
Reviewing Star Wars books. That's the whole point of the show.
All right. So
I've noticed recently, too, that, like, we get comments on YouTube of people being like, can you just put a timestamp as to when the book review begins?
See, exactly.
I was just looking at those in your email, and I was going to comment on that later on.
Well, next week. Dan's going to be back next week for a mailbag segment.
Mel just said that those are children who are trying to like pass book reports without actually like reading the books. They're like they're using us.
I think that's right. So I'm sure there's still book reports being written about many of these books because they're probably just in school libraries.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it happens. All right. So this book, Prophets of the Dark Side, is the final book in Paul and Hollis David's Jedi Prince series. It's the saga. Now, we started covering this series all the way back in March of 2019.
Wasn't that episode 4?
Episode 4, because we used to have the structure of 3 Jude books, 1 off week. Mm-hmm. Once we got past the main Jude books, that kind of became more of a grab bag. But this week, this is our last book. This is book 6. So we've spread these out throughout the entire run of the ship. And in some ways, I regret doing that because I think if we concentrated for a month and a half straight just on this, that might have been really fun. But on the other hand, it's just fitting to end with the final book in the first Star Wars Junior novel series ever, Jedi Prince. So, again, if you guys haven't heard our old episodes with Dan's been on every one of these episodes. If you haven't heard those episodes, I think they're some of our best ever. This one, will it join them? I don't know. Maybe.
Now that it doesn't include that 20 minutes, maybe.
Maybe we salvaged it. But I would say that, we've gone through so many things. We discovered the secret identity of Paul David's Professor Hack hard drive. We discovered that Paul Davids went to the American Film Institute with Paul Schrader. And we found the only picture we could find of Paul Davids, like, from back in the day was, like, where he's sitting behind Paul Schrader in a student screening room.
I wonder if I actually ever posted that online.
I am positive you did. I'm sure it's all the way back. But regardless...
Schrader should adapt these.
Oh, yeah. That should be what is next. After he's done with the horticulture and fucking movie, whatever. After he's done with Edgerton as the horticulturalist who fucks. I fucked up that joke.
Ethan Hawke could play Ken.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, that would be a good Ken. I agree.
50-year-old Ken?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Gen X Ken. I guess, Ken would be on the younger end of Gen X if he was born in the time these books came out. So, but he's
93. These books came out.
Yeah, so if he's like 12, that's the younger end of Gen X.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Ethan Hawke's like the dead center of Gen X. So that's what whatever. Okay, so we all read this book a while ago now. I will say that.
Yes.
It's been a bit, and none of us took the most copious of notes. However,
I started to, but I read much of this book while defecating. So
appropriate setting.
I didn't have my notebook with me at the time.
Appropriate setting for reading these books. Now, listen, we've clowned on these books. We'll continue to clown on them. They're not good, but I will say the illustrations. Is this still Carl Kessel, or has there been a new illustrator introduced?
I think it's still Carl.
Well, it's pencils by June Brigman, finishes by Carl Kessel. So these, there's actually, there is a lot to talk about. I like the art a lot. The design, I never really thought about the design of what's the droid, the teaching DJ, the teaching droid.
Yeah.
The dumbest looking droid in the history of Star Wars.
Okay, I was about to say, I thought you were about to say that you like DJ.
No.
I was going to call you crazy for liking DJ.
No. What if I did? What if I went all in on that opinion in our penultimate episode?
Because DJ in this one illustration, he kind of looks like he's got Ivan Ooze's chin
This
a little bit.
Definitely Ivan Ooze vibes.
I have that one too, yeah. But this one's great because it's very early. I mean, listen, it's that one.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, so let's talk about it, though, because
he's got like the stylized beard of an Egyptian death mask.
He has like a Van Dyke beard, like he's so weird. Errol Flynn's ghost is inhabiting him. Not good news for Ken. That's not even really an accurate diss, but the spirit of it is fine. All right, so right.
I think since we didn't take great notes on this, Paul and Hollis gave us a treat by naming every chapter, and I think by the names of each chapter we can kind of deduce what happened in those chapters.
Well, so Triclops has been taken captive by the Rebel Alliance, if you remember, at the end of the previous book.
Mm-hmm.
And
Not
Triclops,
confused with Trioculus.
Triclops is the true son of Emperor Palpatine.
And the difference between him and Trioculus is that the third eye of Triclops is in the back of his head, not in his forehead.
That must be where Kyrie Irving's third eye is. Good NBA joke.
Franco's laughing. I can hear him.
Yeah, he won't listen to this part though. So he's screwed. So I think though there's a Triclops we found out was Palpatine's true son, because remember Trioculus has been posing as the true heir to the Empire.
Yes.
That is a famous book.
Yes, I don't think there's
I didn't know that.
Single person listening to this show who doesn't know what heir to the Empire is. It's not a one.
Well, maybe if Franco hung around, then he needed that knowledge. So I think although I think he said he had them in his class library.
The kids love Heir to the Empire.
They love Thrawn. Anyway, so I do think there's Triclops is a very dumb character. He has the eye in the back of his head, but he's such a mixed up character. Like he doesn't know. He almost doesn't know how bad a guy he is, so like he seems vaguely redeemable in the eyes of Luke.
Well, he his whole backstory was that he was against his father's empire,
Yes.
and he renounced it, but they put him in an insane asylum,
Right.
Because at night he would have like these like force inspired dreams where he would dream up super weapons, and then they would like take the notation down while he was like mumbling about like Death Stars or whatever in his sleep, and then those would become the Empire's weapons, which I thought was clumsily handled, of course, because it's these books, but was kind of an interesting concept.
And remember, by the way, also that Trioculus died in the he dies at the beginning of this book, and he's just like telling Grand Moff Hissa to beware of Caden, who's the ultimate villain, I guess, of these books. He kind of emerges late in the game, but he comes in. Caden's the great. The
high prophet of the dark side.
Yes, the supreme prophet.
Yeah.
And this Trioculus death scene, had we pulled together that radio drama that I had talked about.
Well, let's read it.
This scene would have been great.
Let's read it. I'll be Trioculus. You be Hissa.
Okay, all right.
All right. We'll start on page 3
Yep.
with when I say Hissa. Okay.
Yep.
Hissa! Trioculus gasped. When I am gone, beware of Caden. He will turn on you next, because you remained loyal to me until my death, rather than to him. Trioculus spoke slowly in a strained, raspy voice. He will use his authority as supreme prophet of the dark side to oppose you with all his power and strength.
Let him oppose us then, Hissa said, nodding. We'll fight back, even if it means an all-civil war for the Empire. That bearded dwarf has proven to be more of a scoundrel than Zorba the Hutt.
Zorba, yes! We dropped Zorba into the great pit of Carcoon, Trioculus recalled in a weakening voice. Sent him plunging into hungry mouth of Sarlacc. A fitting end for that slimy slug. Curse him!
And curse Caden and his prophets of the dark side, Grand Moff Hissa said.
Yes, Trioculus agreed. But let the darkest curse of all fall upon Luke Skywalker. Remind me, promise me, that you, all the Grand Moffs. Trioculus struggled to speak as the gasp between his words grew louder. That you will destroy that Jedi Knight once and for all. Trioculus's 3 eyes blinked and then half closed as though staring off into the distance.
It shall be done, Grand Moff Hissa said.
And then
go ahead.
Wait, go ahead.
Okay, and then Trioculus exhaled, closing his 3 eyes for the last time.
If there are so I think that just if anybody happens to be listening to this show that's from Audible or perhaps from some sort of company that makes animated features, this is top shelf voice talent. You want to scout
it really
these guys.
is.
Lots of animation students these days love animating shit from podcasts. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
I know we talk shit on animation majors nonstop on this show because we're at eternal war with them. Film majors for life. But but could you do us this free labor, please? Okay, moving on.
I like in this speech too that like Trioculus goes on a rant. He loses the path a little bit when he starts talking about Zorba, and then hisses like, "Yes, curse Zorba, but also let's curse Caden. Let's back on subject here."
yeah. We spent way too much time on the Zorba character, but he does not matter for this book. That's what I'm getting there.
So, so that's the kind of prologue. But then when we get back to Spin headquarters on Yavin 4, we
pop quiz. What does Spin stand for?
Senate Planetary
Intergalactic.
I
think it's intelligence.
Well, that's more appropriate for Spin. I'm sure. I think they probably put that Beastie Boys record pretty high on their year-end list in '98.
Is a planetary intelligence just network?
Yeah, I think network.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I don't think this book actually. Usually, the books will tell you what Spin stands for, but I don't think this one does.
The headquarters of the Senate Planetary Intelligence Network, known as Spin.
Oh, okay.
All right. Okay. And so Luke's hanging out there, and they got Triclops there, and he's just talking with some of his Spin colleagues about how actually Pavement really peaked with Slanted and Enchanted, and even Crooked Rain is a sellout move. But I always gotta get those Spin references in, guys. Okay, so Bandwagon-esque did deserve to be number one of the year in '91 over Nevermind. I know that. So shouts to Spin Magazine. I am a clown. Okay. So basically Triclops is there, and he knows of some stuff that's going to happen. Jesus, we read this too long ago. This is the problem. We need to record these things right after.
Well, let's see here. I know there's something that Trioculus is going through their files.
Oh, right. They hack into Trioculus's mind. They have control over him, like through like some sort of radio signal or something like that allows him, that they can control him and go through like Spin files, Rebel Alliance files. And and so he basically steals a bunch of them for him, but Luke has foreseen this. Luke knows that like there's some way to find it, so he's put fake like shit about like where the lost city of the Jedi is on Yavin 4 so that they'll go to the wrong place, basically. Yeah,
which is like a chute that leads down into lava, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And that seems a little off-brand for Luke Skywalker. Also...
Well, I remember when we get to, something I do recall when we do get to the last city of the Jedi is that, like, that's like they're trying to remedy that. Like the elevator that shoots straight into the lava is not supposed to shoot straight into the lava. It's supposed to like drop them in a cave and then they could just walk out. Like it's supposed to be a trap to lead people astray, but for whatever reason there's a lava flow underneath of it now, and it just so happens to drop whoever goes.
It's like that Mandalorian season 1 finale, the Great Lava River.
Yeah,
but that opens up into that pipe or whatever. It's like that.
I will also say that Luke being unsure if Trioculus can be trusted seems a little strange. The Force is a thing. The Force exists, and the Davids continually forget about the existence of the Force in their Star Wars books.
That's true, but that's a problem with literally all post-Jedi Star Wars stuff, is that they seem to think that like they only want to use the Force when it's convenient for them, and they also want Luke to repeat every mistake of the Jedi Order, and that's true literally in all versions. We talked about this on the show.
Yeah,
but it's true to one degree or another in all versions of a post-Jedi timeline. It's very annoying. Anyway.
All right, why do we need an Omniprobe?
Omniprobe?
Yes, because we need an Omniprobe for some reason, and it just so happens that the Jedi Prince Ken, he worked up an Omniprobe back in the Lost City of the Jedi with DJ. Well, DJ did most of the work, but if we can go back to the Lost City of the Jedi, we can pull up the blueprints and get the Omniprobe.
Right. Does somebody get kidnapped? I can't, is that why? This book, I gotta say, guys,
it sucks. It's boring.
Well, let's just talk about broad strokes, because basically they get this information from Triclops, and they're going to invade the Lost City of the Jedi. Ken reunite. They go down to the Lost City. Ken reunites with his teaching droid, who looks like a fucking reboot character. And
obsessed with
the real heads know you're a fucking clown who doesn't know.
The real heads know that that's an insult to reboot that you're comparing.
Yeah,
DJ.
well, okay, yeah, but season 1 and 2 are reboot. They don't aesthetically. They don't hold up. It's no shots, It's what it is. But, this clown over here just is unfamiliar with everything from our generation when we were children, basically, because he lived in the Shenango Valley, which is a cultural wasteland.
What channel was Reboot on?
It was on Cartoon Network.
Oh, I didn't have Cartoon Network. I didn't have Cartoon Network and WB until I was, almost out of elementary school.
Yeah, well, it aired in, when we were in middle school. Whatever. It's fine.
Oh, my Lord.
I apologize.
Zorba makes an appearance where he meets with the prophets of the dark side, and they have dinner together.
Yes, well, there's a whole scene where Zorba gets spit out of the Sarlacc.
Oh,
because,
yes.
Because you know why? Huts cannot be digested.
Yeah.
And so Zorba, he gets thrown out of the Sarlacc. He gets spit out of the Sarlacc. And then he goes and meets with the prophets of the dark side, and he boasts, huts cannot be digested. I can't even remember what his whole plot of meeting with the prophets was.
He barely matters.
Well, it's just because he was important earlier, and this is the last book. And it's worth noting that I believe this series was supposed to be 12 books long. And they canceled it right before they started writing this one. So this is a very hasty wrap-up.
It sure is.
Anyways. So basically, these new Imperial fucks are going to come to Yavin. They got some sort of weapons from Zorba. I don't remember the exact machinations with Zorba. And so they come there, and basically it's just a lot of nonsense where it's they realize... not Trioculus, Caden, the Supreme Prophet, realizes he's foreseen that Ken will give up the location of the Lost City of the Jedi.
Right.
So basically that's one of his prophecies. So basically Ken and Luke go and visit the Lost City, but then they wind up on the surface. Caden and his goons wind up showing up, and they kidnap Ken, or they basically hold somebody hostage. I can't remember.
Yeah, they kidnap Ken.
They kidnap Ken and basically
Luke,
and they figure out some way to force him to give up the location of the Lost City. So then they basically they go down there. Luke winds up wrecking shop. He's Luke Skywalker, motherfucker.
Yeah, I will say the elevator to the magma is how Grand Moff Hissa dies. They send him down the elevator, and there's a great illustration of him falling. And also, I found out
in his hover chair or whatever.
Yeah,
and it's it's quite an image.
I found out on Wikipedia too. Somebody colorized that image too, so I'm going to post that on the.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
Nice.
They also colorized Trioculus's death, where Hissa's holding his hand in his dying breaths. Love that illustration.
Oh yeah, what was this little pendant thing?
Oh yes. So this is where we get to where this book further reveals itself to be the source material for the J.J. Abrams Star Wars film.
This is absolutely crazy.
This is my favorite thing about this book.
I can't believe it.
So throughout the series, Ken had this pendant. It was like a half circle type thing.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of chapter 5 of this book, Kadan reveals that he's got the other half of this, and then it clicks together. And then in the subsequent chapter, he reveals the truth.
We should read part of this.
Okay.
Let's see if we can figure it out. What?
No, that's fine.
So yeah, no. This illustration. So yeah, there's. Okay, yeah. Ken's. Okay, DJ. I'll play DJ here. This is on page 66.
Okay.
You be Ken.
Okay.
And I guess, Dan, do you want to be Caden?
Sure.
All right, so I'm going to start here.
Give me 1 moment. I got to hack up.
Okay. All right, how you doing, Levi?
I'm doing fine.
No, I'm fine. I just swallowed some saliva down the wrong pipe. I'm good. I just didn't want to cough right into the mic.
Fair enough.
All
right, I'm good.
Drive.
All right.
Professor Hack Hard Drive. Yes.
Yep.
All right. So where are we starting?
Okay. Okay, let's see. Now because he's showing Ken, he's slowly revealing Ken's parentage to him. And Ken's mother, by the way, his name is Kendalina. Just so you know.
Yes. Because remember, Ken for a long time was hoping he was a Kenobi, but he is not a Kenobi.
Yeah, which is even crazier because that was one of the dominant fan theories with Rey. Okay.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Now the screen showed a picture of the building and the spice mines where Kendalina worked. The Imperial Insane Asylum of Kessel. That's where she met the man who became your father, Ken, DJ interrupted. He was an Imperial prisoner, considered insane because he said he was a pacifist who believed in disarmament instead of war. He has 3 eyes. 2 are at the front of his head. 1 at the back.
This is your father, Kadan revealed.
Suddenly, the screen showed a portrait of Triclops. Ken felt his heart skip several beats as his throat constricted. You inherited many of your mother's features, Ken, DJ explained. You have a natural talent for the Jedi arts and skills, like she did. You have her brown hair and her eyes. Fortunately, you did not inherit your father's gene for a 3rd eye, and you weren't born a mutant like he was. now you know that you really do have Jedi blood in your veins, but you are also descended from the royal blood of the Empire. You can go.
Ken's arms, limp and drained of all strength, dropped to his sides.
Behold, your grandfather! Kadan declared.
On the screen, Ken saw an image of Sheev Palpatine sitting on the throne in the Death Star.
It says Emperor Palpatine. It's not a time travel book.
Sheev's face looking twisted, tortured, and evil. It can't be true, Ken exclaimed. Please, no, it isn't true.
Continue.
Losing control of his emotions, Ken struck the old metal droid, pounding on DJ's chest and screaming, "No! No! No!"
DJ calmly gripped Ken's wrists, saying sternly, "Be still! Why do you think you were brought to us, Ken? Because your mother wanted you to have a chance to overcome your grandfather's ways of darkness and evil? That's why we were chosen to raise you," DJ explained. "So that under guidance and teaching of the caretaker droids of the Lost City, your Jedi heritage would win out over Darkseid. That is also part of your heritage."
I've heard enough from that droid, Kadan declared. Deactivate him!
No! Ken screamed, but the Imperial intelligence agent opened the panel in DJ's back and swiftly deactivated him, leaving the droid, the old droid, motionless and silent.
All right, so that's absolutely fucking nuts that he is literally Sheev's grandson.
JJ just read these books and he's like, well, I'm just going to make a movie version of this.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Listen, I am sure this is not a new observation for most of the people listening to this podcast, but like we keep our heads in the sands. You know, we focus on the here and now for us.
Do we keep our heads in the sands of Tatooine or Jakku?
Oh, they're totally different planets, totally different cultures. But it is shocking to me that like not only is it like Ken's arc and Rey's arc being similar in terms of that they have, you know, mysterious parentage and all that stuff. That's not my favorite idea in the world, but a reasonable idea to come to, like the same thing for the new hero of the Star Wars story. But the fact that they both wound up being the grandchildren of Sheev Palpatine is shocking. Truly.
Mm-hmm. I do want to remind you guys that I called this.
I know you did. Also, the last time we recorded one of these, you know, which was I think over a year ago at this point, that was at my peak of I don't even want to acknowledge the existence of Rise of Skywalker. So I was like, I was shutting down all conversation of it.
Yeah.
But now this is truly incredible. I'm actually delighted by this.
This book is better than Rise of Skywalker.
No. No. Like the like Force connection lightsaber duel in Rise of Skywalker is like a legitimately good scene. It has like two decent, actually good scenes at least.
However, the other source material for Rise of Skywalker, Dark Empire, is better.
Well, Dark Empire fucks, so yeah, no, of course it's better. But no, I mean, now I'm starting to get to the point with Rise of Skywalker, a movie that I'll never watch again, but I kind of just enjoy remembering some stupid shit from it. Mm-hmm. It'll like just popping into my head. I'm like, wow. What a dumb movie. It's shocking how bad it is. Again, I repeat, it is shocking how bad it is. But anyway.
The only thing I recall from it that I enjoyed was Babu Frick, who I thought was a fun character. And I saw this year at Hallmark, they had a talking ornament that was C-3PO, like a bust of 3PO, shoulders up, and Babu was on his back, and you hit a button, and it recited the whole thing, where 3PO is just like, I want to take one last look at my friends. And then the eyes go dark, the eyes then turn to red, and he recites the whole Sith text that is on the dagger. And I remember standing in a Hallmark store listening to this whole thing and being like, yes, Christmas. Nothing says Christmas like Sith text on an ancient Sith dagger.
Well, it's excuse me, Wayfinder.
The Wayfinder.
Yeah, so, wait, no. I thought the Wayfinder was like the holocron-looking thing.
Oh, okay, yeah, but doesn't that...
Oh, who knows?
Then when you hold up the dagger, if you happen to randomly land on the exact spot and with the exact horizon line
yes.
on the forest moon of not the forest moon of Endor, but some other moon of Endor, it's not...
I think it is Endor. Well, maybe it's not Endor. Well,
I don't know how the entire environment of Endor was just
what's
whatever.
So confusing about it is the fact that there's like two Wayfinders. Like who planted these Wayfinders? Who made this dagger? Who thought this dagger was a good idea? We have the Force people. We don't need the dagger.
Dark science. Cloning.
Thank you, Dominic.
That is actually the highlight of that movie right there.
Agreed.
Dark science and cloning.
All right. And the fact that the name Sheev is not uttered in that movie makes me sick.
I agree.
If you're going to do that horrible story decision and bring Sheev back, you got to at least introduce the name Sheev to the rest of the world. The rest of the world needs to know. He'd be like, ooh, his name is Sheev? Interesting. You know what I mean? That would be everybody's reaction. Of course.
What to me would have been
interesting. Sheev, okay.
What would have been way more interesting to me too is because we only have the one big lightsaber battle in it between Rey and Kilo right in the middle of the movie. Rey and Kilo should have had to fight Sheev. That's how Sheev should have donned his lightsaber. He could have done what he did in Clone Wars and pulled out two, and they could have just wrecked shit. But that doesn't happen because JJ was just phoning it in.
It's a disaster. Whatever. We don't need to litigate it. It's just crazy how bad it is. But anyway, I would say though it is better than this because I do think there's some visual moments of that movie that I'm like, well, that's a cool image. that is a fun Star Wars image in my head. There's nothing about this that's good.
Oh no, this is one of the most. These books are some of the most artless art that I've ever experienced in my life.
I don't want to insult all the hardworking craftspeople that worked on Rise of Skywalker, because they did. There's creature work and whatever. There's stuff that's going on there. None of it's framed particularly well because the movie is in such a rush. But Babu Frick, alone puts it above, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But all right,
but the point is
nice flying, Lando.
The point.
Okay, well, that doesn't mean just because they wasted Wedge Antilles, hero of the rebellion, does not mean you get to continue your endless disrespect of Wedge Antilles, hero of the rebellion.
I was never disrespecting him. It's just before the movie, I said that he's just going to get shafted.
You said he deserves to be shafted. We can go back to the tape. I'm not going to put this in, but I guarantee you, go back to our 2019 episodes. You talk about how it's like he shouldn't even be in the movie because who cares? You are such an anti-Wedge man. Yeah, this is a Wedge issue for the show.
So Wedge between us, apparently.
Yeah, that's what I said. All right, let's wrap this book up. So, basically, by the way, there's a hilarious illustration that you must post of Ken falling into DJ's arms, and in the background you got Kaden, the Supreme Prophet of the Dark Side, who is just a truly hysterical design, and he's showing an image of Sheev on his hollow thing. Just a deranged illustration. Honestly, I want this blown up, and I want to frame it and replace my Crouching Tiger poster with it. All right.
So wrapping this up, Luke somehow, I can't remember how, he gets Ken out of the Lost City of the Jedi, and he traps Kaden inside. And that is where we leave Kaden. Kaden is not defeated, and Ken or somebody is like, well, what if he escapes? And Luke's just like, well, we'll deal with that when the time comes, but right now we gotta get to a wedding, guys. Right. And then we have the very rush.
I remember Triclops also escapes Rebel thing, but because
we should talk about the letter.
Yeah, because Triclops leaves a letter for Ken, because Triclops, remember, is his father. And here's the letter. I'll read it. Dear Ken, I've missed you ever since you were taken from me and sent to live with the droids in the lost city of the Jedi. I have known since the day you and Luke rescued me back on Duro that you are my son. I knew by the birth crystal you wore. I know what a shock it must be for you and you realize. I know what a shock it must have been for you to realize that your grandfather was Emperor Sheev Palpatine. And the things I must do in the days ahead will surely shock you just as much. All I can say is do not believe all the terrible things you will hear about me. Trust in me, and if the day comes when you can no longer have faith in me, then trust in the Force, as your Jedi mother Kendalina did. Perhaps then you will discover that there is goodness in my heart. Until we meet again, your loving father, Triclops.
What the fuck was that voice? you might want to post the text of that so that people can read along and know what the fuck that actually said.
All right. Dear Ken, I've missed you ever since you were taken from me and sent to live with the droids in the lost city of the Jedi. I've known since the day you and Luke rescued me back on Duro that you are my son. I knew by the birth crystal you wore.
The voice.
I know what a shock it must have been for you to realize that your grandfather was Emperor Sheev Palpatine. And the things I must do in the days ahead will surely shock you just as much. All I can say is, in Soviet Russia, do not believe all the terrible things you will hear about me. Trust in me, and if the day comes when you can no longer have faith in me, then trust in the Force, as you and your Jedi mother Kendalina did. Perhaps then you will discover that there is goodness inside of my heart. Until we meet again, your loving father, Triclops.
Cyclops. All right.
Cyclops. I love this one line. The things I must do in the days ahead will surely shock you just as much.
What is he threatening? What is going to happen?
And then he says, "Do not believe all the terrible things you will hear about me." Like he's like,
what is he going to do? Is he going to fucking suicide bombs?
No, he's gonna take he's gonna have to do something morally ambiguous or take the blame for something.
Right.
It's like a end of the Dark Knight situation.
That is true. Oh my God, Chris Nolan is reading these books too.
Nolan, holy
Influence
shit.
on the big budget boys of this generation is absolutely crazy.
He is.
Right.
And then, Ken's like, "Oh, but do we have to see him go?" And Luke's going to come up to him and he says, "We're going to have to chase him, because this is what he does." I can't remember the line there.
All right. Well, we also need, okay, we got to talk about, let's just read this last bit here from the page break at the bottom of page 85 to the end of the book, because this is the day we've all been waiting for, the wedding of Han Solo and Princess Leia Organa. So here we go. Before Ken knew it, that eagerly waited day had arrived. It was a very special day for Luke, too, for he would be giving his sister's hand in marriage to his good friend, Han Solo. His good friend? We can't give them best friend? It's fucked up, kind of. Luke's best friend? Okay, I get that Han might be like, well, Chewie's my best friend. Sorry, my guy. But who is Luke's best friend?
You would argue R2-D2. Remember we had this discussion?
Well, I would argue that Luke is R2's best friend.
But I think Ahsoka is
R2's the Ahsoka take is such bullshit, galaxy brain, internet soup bullshit. You're too online, my guy. That's what I have to say to that.
R2 is obligated to stay with Luke. He may have wanted other things for himself.
Now we don't know what R2 wanted. Again, one of my favorite topics. Okay, let's go. To Luke, the wedding day seemed very much like the festive day of celebration they once had after the explosion of the first Imperial Death Star. The location was the same, and all the guests seemed filled with joy as they stood on both sides of the red wedding carpet. It's also called an aisle, my guy, on the path that led to the Senate entrance. Dignitaries who had arrived from many planets throughout the galaxy were waiting excitedly for the formal ceremony to be commenced by Mon Mothma. Standing at the far end of the red carpet, Princess Leia, who was holding her wedding bouquet, looked over at Luke and smiled at him. She then glanced around and saw Ken and all of her other friends. Chewbacca was on hand to serve as Han's best man. We agree. And C-3PO and R2-D2 were there to share the title of best droid, both of them showing off their gleaming polish. In the moments before it would be time for her to walk up the carpet and say, "I do," Leia calmly put herself in tune with the Force, and for an instant, she thought she had a vision of the future. Oh, shit, Timothy Zahn, watch out. It was a glimpse of a time to come, a time when Leia would live with Han peacefully and safely in his sky house, floating in the air near Cloud City. It was also a time after their children had already been born. Leia saw Han sitting with their children. There were two of them, one on each knee, as Han told the kids stories about his adventures flying in the Millennium Falcon in the days of the great battles against the evil Empire. Would their children be twins? Taking a breath, Leia wondered if she and Han could possibly handle twins. She struggled to glimpse the hazy vision more clearly, to see whether their children would be boys or girls, or a boy and a girl. But her vision vanished before the answer came to her. Leia nodded to herself, ready to accept whatever was to come her way. She then stared at the long red carpet that made the path between her and the altar. Enjoying the scent of her bouquet of bright flowers, Leia glanced over at her brother Luke and exchanged another smile. Then she turned her gaze toward Han, her husband-to-be. He looked at her adoringly in return and smiled as she prepared to take her first steps down the aisle. down the red carpet. Work it, Leia.
The end. And I think the important thing there is that they found an opportunity to remind us about Han Solo's Sky House.
Yes,
they sure did.
They got to remind you of literally everything that's ever been referenced in these books. That's part of the problem. Part of the reason maybe they could have done this. They could have done the story they had in mind in 6 books, but each of these books is basically recapping what's happened already in asides and all this nonsense. So, like, they reference everything. The Sky House is a funny reference, though.
Well, that's in the radio drama that I began to write on this. I wanted you to read the opening scroll of the book, which would have been the recap, which is like 4 pages long.
Yeah, well, that was their wedding scene. Dan, I read The Courtship of Princess Leia, another book where Han and Leia get married from supposedly the same timeline as this book.
Okay,
I
go ahead.
I read this like maybe a decade ago, or not a decade ago, like 2 decades ago. We're talking like late 90s, so I don't have much memory of it, but you reread it about a decade ago, so you've read it twice.
Yeah.
How does this scene compare to the courtship of Princess Leia?
Well, the courtship of Princess Leia doesn't really have like the wedding itself in it.
Oh,
it's about the courtship of Princess
You're right,
Leia.
the courtship.
So, I mean, those are the events that lead to them actually getting married, and we don't see the actual ceremony. The next time we see them in the timeline, they are married. Allegedly these books take place in the same continuity as Legends, but and I remember reading that there was some explanation offered at one point that the wedding we are about to see in these books gets interrupted by some nonsense.
There's a whole thing on the continuity on the Wikipedia page about these books that I do want to discuss when you're done.
Oh, well, yeah, that's what I was going to get into, so go ahead.
Well, we should also quickly just... We gave him a brief shout-out a couple weeks ago, but The Courtship of Princess Leia, of course, was written by Dave Wolverton, the Wizard of Storytelling, who wrote Jedi Apprentice #1, The Rising Storm, created the great character of Brooke Chun, and is in some ways the absentee father of the Jude verse. So we have to give him props. And R.I.P. He's earned his title, the Wizard of Storytelling.
Have you guys, this is talking some recent news here. All right. Did you guys hear about the new book coming out in, I want to say it's May or March, sometime in there?
No, I haven't.
Oh, wait, no, it's August. Okay. New book in August. I don't remember the title of it. Han and Leia get married, and then they immediately get aboard the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel that's being offered at Disney World.
Oh, nice. So
they're doing like a big tie-in with
their honeymoon.
I guess so. Yes, that's how
fun.
they honeymoon.
That's fun. That's the kind of. I mean, listen. I didn't win. I entered a contest for 4 people to go to that. Through Disney Movie Rewards, and I used all of my points because I don't fucking get anything from there anyway. So I got 100 chances. That's the limit. You couldn't get more than 100 chances. So I was like, who knows? Maybe. Didn't happen. But that would have been amazing. They even paid for airfare and everything.
Wow, that would have been a good deal.
And it was like 5 nights, 2 of them at the, what do you call it? At the Star Cruiser.
Yes.
And then the other 3 would be at another Disney hotel, and you could spend the rest of the time. Like,
that'd be really nice.
Would have been nice.
It would have been nice. But so that's their tie-in with that. And also, I also realized recently there's no Mando or Grogu meet and greet in Disney parks, which seems like a major missed opportunity. And I know the big issue is the fact that Batuu is like timed, like it has a timestamp on it in terms of where it falls in continuity. I think this is a big mistake, and in about a decade they'll probably undo this whole story element to it so that we can get some new characters in.
There need to be like Listen, I'm not again. We've talked about it on the past on the show how like a lot of people that complain about theme parks, like, they're often like, ugh, like, I'm so bored of it. Oh, I've been there like 10 times already. Like, and that's very obnoxious to me because, like, it's not designed necessarily to, like, wow you 10 different times, certainly 10 times within like 2 months or whatever. Like, I will say it seems like a weird choice to have been like, we're going to build a Star Wars land and it's cool that it's an original planet, but in some ways it's like if you're going to a Star Wars land, it's like you do kind of want to be in like Mos Eisley. You do kind of want to go, like, there are like some classic settings that you might want to, you might want to use. Whatever. Let's talk about this continuity shit.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to just read some of this verbatim because there's some interesting stuff here. So in the series finale, Prophets of the Dark Side ends with Han Solo and Leia Organa walking down the aisle of their wedding ceremony. But a retcon states that this wedding was interrupted and never completed. And then Han and Leia were married again in the later novel, The Courtship of Princess Leia, which came out the year after this book did. Then we have a retcon in the new essential chronology revealed that Trioculus Grand Moff Bertolf Hissa, he has a name, they named him at some point, Bertolf, and other members of the Central Committee of Grand Moffs were trying to overthrow the Director of Imperial Intelligence, Yasani Izzard, who ruled the galactic capital of Coruscant. Yeah,
she's from the X-Wing books.
You would know that if you respected Wedge Antilles.
Oh my god!
I have zero respect for the Antilles, even Vale Antilles. Fuck Vale Antilles.
Not the same family.
Which is deranged, by the way.
The Antilles, it's like Smith, it's a common name.
All right. So apparently, then the Grand Moff Hissa convened to install Trioculus as their public leader for the Empire to gain support, but he failed.
The problem with this series, the series is in another region of canon. If I recall, that book they referred to, the New Essential Chronology. I believe I own that book. I thought it was right here on hand, but I don't know. I can't see it. But it's the one with Yoda looking at all the books on the cover. Mm-hmm. And it's written by Pablo Hidalgo. And I think maybe on the first episode, on the Glove of Darth Vader episode, I think I might have read that sidebar about the nebulous canonicity of this series.
It's kind of a mess. There is one thing here that I do want. This I thought this was very fun, and this apparently was in Aliens of the Empire. Triclops was not Palpatine's biological son. She's not fun. But is the product of a scientific experiment in which Sheev hired scientists, Uncle Mammon Hool, Orgamus Gog, to study the spontaneous generation of life. Obtained a human female named Niobe as their test subject. Niobe gave birth to a three-eyed mutant, and she and her son were banished. And that's that was the retcon.
All right.
They tie Galaxy of Fear to this. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, so it's a Galaxy of Fear tie-in. That's crazy.
And it's also because somebody that was involved in, the continuity stuff during that era agreed with what I said several episodes ago, that I could never ever imagine Sheev having sex.
Oh my god, it's so...
Yeah, he has no time for that.
He's a purely asexual being.
Well, he's such a creature of just cartoonish evil. I could not imagine him having any desire for anything other than unlimited power.
Yeah, I agree. I think he, instead of cum, he has the lightning. The lightning is him ejaculating.
God.
That is his
Oh,
ejaculate.
dear. Oh, God. We've definitely lost some listeners just now.
Really?
In the penultimate episode, we've lost listeners.
Really? We're filthy. I don't know, whatever. Okay, should I cut that? Is that what you're saying?
No, you're fine. Leave
Okay.
leave the lightning come. Just
Oh my God.
it's fine. We've got nothing left to lose.
Okay. Alright, I guess I shouldn't have made that joke. You made me feel bad about it.
Oh, for God's sake.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to make you feel bad.
Thought it was a funny joke.
If I wanted to make you feel bad, I would just say that "Bad" is a bad song. But
Okay, we don't need to
We'll
get
go
into
into
that.
that.
So, this book, it is the last book we will ever give a midi-chlorian count to. Dan, as our guest, our final book reviewing guest, what midi-chlorian count do you give to Prophets of the Dark Side, and more broadly, to the entire Jedi Prince saga?
Okay. Well, this one was terrible, like they all are. I think that it is perhaps slightly less terrible than the previous couple, because the problem with the second half of the series is that it gets slightly less ridiculous, but that makes it worse because then it just becomes boring.
Right.
This one at least had the delight of Rey or Ken being revealed to be Palpatine's grandson. So I'll bump it up to a 1.765.
Oh, some pitchfork scoring.
Right.
very nice.
This is Spin was the music publication referred to in this.
right. Yeah, so I shouldn't cross the streams. Yeah.
I'll say, I think that's fair. The second half of the series did get way more boring, less goofy stuff happening. I'll say this felt like the most conventionally good book in the series in some ways. Like, it had the least amount of just shockingly bad sentences and that kind of thing. But again, at this point in the run, that's not what I want out of these books.
Right.
And so, yeah, they're just boring. The concepts that the series is based on are so just on their face stupid. The glove of Darth Vader, the prophets of the dark side, the lost city of the Jedi, whatever, all this nonsense. So I gotta go with I wish I knew exactly what Pitchfork gave that Jet album that they reviewed with a monkey pissing in its own mouth video. But that rating, so I think that's like a 0.4 or something out of
0.4.
Very nice. I think in the later half of this series, each book seemed to deal with an environmental.
Are we losing Levi?
It would seem we are.
Great.
I'm sorry, I just dropped out of life. Apparently,
You're here. Just
okay. All right. So, the later half of these books, we had the whales, we had the Save the Whales, we had forest fires going on, all sorts of environmental disasters. And I think this book series kind of lost track of that because I think Paul and Hollis were trying to say something a little deeper, maybe a little more topical for the time, sort of, save the
definitely
earth.
not still topical, not at all.
We definitely lost that way a little bit. We're getting back on it now, but the 2000s there, we were all about the terrorists. So,
2000s is the most hedonistic, horrible time in the world. Anyway, continue.
It's pretty bad. But I'm going to give this score a score I've never given a book before. I'm going to give this a 1.138 midichlorian count.
Very nice. That's our final book review, guys. Thank you so much for listening.
What about the flavors? We got to flavor them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I have to shit really bad.
I'm gonna flavor mine DJ.
I'll flavor mine what I'm about to do in a few minutes here. Dog shit.
Okay. Well, I know I've done this before, but it's got to be Zorba. It's got to be Zorba the Hutt.
And Southern
Hearts cannot be digested.
Well, thank you all for listening to this very silly episode. And thank you for listening to the show in general, because next week is our finale. And Dan will be back for a segment, and we're going to have all our regular guests back to do a little quick segment, and we're going to do some looking back on the show. Thank you all for listening. We'll give our more heartfelt responses, feelings about you guys next week. And Dan, do you want to sign us off?
Sure. Until the books are due back.
The library is closed.
Until the books are due back.
It's closed. You're right.
It's closed. Yeah.
Good. Padawan Library is hosted and produced by Tim May and Levi Peretic. It is edited by Tim May. Our theme song is by The Astral Project. Our artwork is by Freddie Funbuns. Padawan Library is copyright 2022. Tim May and Levi Peretic. All rights reserved.